Absolutely. Thank you. I drew the short end of the stick to give this presentation, but this is a very important initiative for me as the CEO of the district, and so I do believe it's appropriate for me to provide that presentation to y'all. We're talking about our District of Innovation renewal that has to happen every 5 years. Being able to do that, here's the District of Innovation requirements. It must be board approved. The initial approval was in June of 2017. It was amended in September of 2020. These plans are valid for 5 years. They can be amended or renewed at any time during the term of the plan, and then the term of the DOI plan may be extended for up to additional 5 years during renewal. So we're kind of in this cycle now of every 5 years of needing to have it considered through a pretty, I won't say rigorous process, but it is a detailed process that includes the posting of it on our website, along with a committee that was formed to be able to look at that. That committee right here is from 2021, the 22 DOI committee members. Some are repeaters from the initial DOI process. This one actually had some other folks here. Of course, there's some folks up there that are no longer with us. Mr. Bitter, who has not been in the district for about the last month, he was initially charged with actually running this and then turned it over to Mr. Jones, the Deputy Superintendent Chief of Staff, to go ahead and finish it out. So as you can see, there's certainly a lot of diversity on this amongst the district, and some parents are represented there. Some of these folks that might be a community member also could be a / parent on this as well. There's a lot of diversity there in regards to ethnicity as well. So we really strived to make that happen. I think we did that as far as the committee members. Our areas of focus for Tyler ISD with the DOI, and I think this was, we were pretty aggressive when this first came out, and a lot of folks around the state started seeing what we were doing in Tyler and have kind of replicated that, especially as things were 5 years ago projected that could be on the horizon. This is what we've been doing. So one thing is the instructional calendar. State law talks about how the back end of August is what's in state law, but the District of Innovation, when it was written into statute in one of the legislatures, gave us some relief opportunities to be considered at the local level that they thought were a little bit too stringent in state law. And so they went ahead and put a new law in called the District of Innovation, because instead of undoing a more constraining law, it's easier to write a new law and pass down to the local level and say, hey, we'll let you guys make the decision there. So one of those things was the instructional calendar, the start date the back end of August. It also talks about instructional days versus instructional minutes and attendance for credit. Teacher certifications, that's your DOI certifications that y'all get reported on twice a year. Flexibility based on educational skills, experience, so that you can plug those into vacancies and needs. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute. Probationary contracts. For those of y'all that are new to the board, or just a refresher for you veteran folks, Chapter 21 of the Texas Education Code talks about that teachers that have 5 out of 8 years of experience after 1 year of service time is automatically recommended for tenure. Now, in saying that, our District of Innovation plan says that you have to go through 2 years of the engagement of the tryout phase before you can get tenure in Tyler ISD. We had actually proposed 3. However, they went ahead and the committee came back and said, no, that was a little bit too extreme for them. They see 2. And the reason you do that is that if you hire somebody from a new school system that comes in to your school system, let's just say we hired somebody from Brownsboro. Well, right now we're going through the process of determining whether or not we want to, bring someone back. That's a pretty short window in there to be able to consider whether or not you want to bring somebody back. And so Tyler ISD practices 2 years on those 5 of 8 teachers. Dr. Nation, you remember that from your days. Ms. Atkins, you remember those probably from your days about how you receive tenure. As opposed to this, the 1 year, where we make a determination, and we may have been a little bit uneasy, and we said, well, we'll bring you back. You're 5 of 8, you automatically go on tenure, and y'all know it takes a little bit more to move a lower performing individual out of a school system if they've got tenure, as opposed to probationary in the best interest of the school district. which gets us to probationary contracts, or that we just talked about probationary contracts. We now go to class size waivers. The old methodology on the class size waivers was the 22-to-1, which was kind of pulled out of thin air back when, I guess, Ross Perot was being an advocate on trying to transform public ed back in the 80s. The 22-to-1 was, we used to go this way, used to go administration makes the plan, puts it in front of the board stamps it, and then it goes to TEA for approval. What they did was they just took TEA out of the equation there, because the Commissioner of Education at that time, or I guess it was Commissioner Morath, might have been Commissioner Williams, I'm not sure, said that we're getting a lot of these, understanding that it's even though if you budget for tight extreme, sometimes you get surprised with this. It was causing a delay to actually go and put some remediations in place when you have an overage of 22-to-1. So they just took TEA out of the mix. Our plan says that we put this in front of the board twice a year. Y'all get a report on that. So let's look at the instructional calendar, what the plan does look like on the first day of instruction. I'll try to slow down a little bit. I'm a little hopped up on coffee right now. Here's the code. It's Chapter 25 of the Texas Education Code that talks about the school district may not begin student instruction prior to the 4th Monday in August. There's a couple of bullet points on there that talks about what puts us as a constraint there. In our innovation plan, it provides trustees the flexibility to consider beginning instruction calendar earlier and then develop a school calendar that meets the needs of the district. So this is a local control issue. They put that code in place when I think it was the Texas Association of Business got with our theme parks, our Six Flags, our Wet n Wilds, our Moody Gardens, et cetera, and said we need to extend the summer as long as we can to make sure everybody's taking that vacation, that last-minute vacation. So they got that put into law. They came back and said, okay, there's some circumstances where school systems need the local control to be able to do that. Our own Chamber of Commerce actually supported that legislation when it was put into code way back when. So as we formulated this DOI plan, we did go back to the Chamber and the Economic Development Council here locally and got them to say, hey, can you do us a favor? We'll back you on this, but we need to compromise a little bit. In other words, just don't start at the 1st of August or the end of July. And there are some school systems that do that. And so that's why we start when we start. And we do it so that we can accomplish some other goals. And that is making sure we keep our Christmas breaks and our Thanksgiving breaks the way that we have them, our spring breaks the way that we have them, some other flexibilities inside the calendar as well. But most importantly, what we've heard from our parents and our community and our teachers and even our students, they would like to be done with school before Memorial Day. This flexibility allows for that up on the front end. So, and next bullet does talk about meet the requirement of the 75,000 plus minutes that's in state law now, but more importantly aligns with the traditions and the expectations of the community. Instructional minutes, I'll briefly talk about this right here. Here's the code. This allows us to actually put in a little bit different for our pre-K kiddos. A little bit less as far as the day goes. They get out a little bit earlier during the day because of stamina issues and because of transportation and maybe parental needs. So that's been successful for us as well. And then it also talks about our dropout prevention program. If you think about RISE and those kiddos who have different challenges than our comprehensive high schools go, or even our early college high schools goes, this allows us to have a hybrid school day model for those kiddos that may either have a job or don't desire to meet the stamina requirements of a comprehensive model. So this is built into the code now for DOI, allowing us to make sure we meet the needs of the RISE students. Attendance for credit here. Our innovation plan calls for the credit or grade may be awarded based on in-kind seat time where appropriate. And this really does affect our individual graduation committees that'll be the final determining factor in granting that credit or the final grade. That's been very successful for us. The STAR test and the requirements or the EOC test and the requirements that you have to have there. Dan Huberty and some other folks, legislators, wrote in these individual graduation placement or individual graduation committees for school systems to utilize as well. And it basically says the 5 EOCs that you have to take, even though we strive for every kiddo to pass those, there may be a hang up in there. The debate about standardized testing being a preventative thing for kiddos to enter the workforce or go to college. One or two of those can actually be waived, but you have to have some things that back that up in that IGC. This is the code that allows for that. Teacher certifications, we talked about DOI certifications that may be approved based on the needs, skills, and experience. DOI certification valid only in Tyler ISD and probationary contracts only. Little inside baseball about this. If you start looking on the horizon, before long, 70% of your teaching workforce across the state is going to come from an alternatively certified pathway. I'll repeat that again. Before long, 30% of your workforce, available workforce in the state, is going to actually go through your teacher education prep programs. That is a priority for us to hire folks that are certified as a teacher. It is a priority for us to make sure that they are on some type of pathway to go get full-time certification. But that is something that we've been very blessed by, that our community backs, that the board approves, that we can have DOI certifications here. I know we've talked about this before at the dais about the importance and the concerns about that. But again, a little inside baseball on that, a call with some folks from the agency very recently talked about them putting together a group to look at innovative ways to increase the production of certifications for teaching staff. In fact, our own Sherry Taylor, who's not here today, we didn't ask her to be, is actually going to be on a group with the Texas Education Agency, a statewide task force to look at innovative methods on teacher certification. Our 40-plus meeting that we had with paraprofessionals is of getting them certified is an innovative thing that's going on across the state, not just in Tyler ISD, along with DOI. But as we ask the question of agency staff, well, what do you want us to do in the meantime before these things take root, before this committee even gets started? They said, go to your DOI. That was the answer. Go to your DOI. Because we know that we're not going to be able to fix higher ed anytime soon about their production on putting teacher certified folks out there. Higher ed's really shifted, y'all, to graduate school. That's the moneymaker. Online graduate school is the moneymaker for higher ed right now. Now, they're working on it. They're not looking at us and don't listen to us and tell us that they don't care, that they're just going to continue to do this. They are working with us to try to attract folks into the profession. And so it's something that's concerning to them as well. So here's our DOI part of the DOI certification part of the plan. Here's what I described on the probationary contracts, extension of the probationary time when we do hire somebody in. And there's that bottom bullet right there. Y'all can read this. I don't need to go any further with that. Now, if you're a new teacher and you're new to the profession, it used to be that you could put 3 years of service time in, 2 years of service time in, or 1 year you could go right on to tenure. We go to two years on probation on a brand new teacher as well, and a lot of times we go to 3 years of probationary period. You may remember that, Dr. Nation, you may, Ms. Atkins. So it's not like when you get into the profession, you automatically get tenure. There are some things as far as probationary contracts that you're able to have a little bit more leeway on. When you get to term, that gets locked in, and that does, or a tenure, I call it tenure, it's term. A term contract, it does get you a little bit locked in. So here's our plan, that second bullet, that even if you had 5 out of 8, you come to Tyler ISD, you get a 2-year tryout period. And that's been received well enough by folks that come into the district. It's explained to them whenever they get here that that's what we're doing. It's the type of contract that they sign. We have not had anybody balk on that, saying, no way. They want to come work in Tyler. So it's been successful, I think, on a two-way street, at least from my understanding in regard to that. Here's your class size waiver of 22-to-1 in K through 4. That was, I think we've talked about this before, we were struggling with this for a while in regard to that. Just as much as we were struggling with too many substitute or vacant positions that were filled by substitutes, that the DOI plan allowed for us to do that. We've really worked hard on this 22-to-1, trying to keep it right at 22-to-1 or below, and sometimes we do tip over. but it's usually no more than 8 or 15 kids district-wide that causes us to do this, where I believe my first year here, it was significant. It was 100-plus kids, I believe, that was causing us to do that. I remember our first meeting, Tasha, back in 2014, looking at that. And so here's what we do if it does tip over. We add a para there. If it gets 24-1, a new teacher may be hired. We do leave a lot of discretion to our principals, and they're the ones closest to this issue. And so when you go to a principal and you say, hey, you went 24-1, we'll hire you a new teacher. Do you want us to hire you a new teacher? They usually look at us and say no. And they usually look at us and tell us no because they know they're going to have to deal with the parents who have already gone through Meet the Teacher Night, the first couple or 3 weeks of school, starting to develop that relationship with that teacher. And now all of a sudden we're going to throw in a new teacher there. I can't say we've never done that because I think we have. But they tend to lean on toward, let's get a paraprofessional in here, and we've got them with an effective teacher. They're very good at managing their rosters on who has too many kiddos in their class, who can handle it, who can't handle it. I know there's been some questions about that. So that's just kind of one of the pieces of this class size waiver. Your class size ratios are reported to the Board of Trustees at least once a semester. And that's our presentation. Do you have any questions about the DOI plan? You're not adopting it today, by the way. This is the presentation and the public hearing.
Anybody have any comments or questions on that for Dr. Crawford? I do have more of a global state of Texas education. You know, why wouldn't somebody hop on a DOI plan? Are there districts out there that don't do this?
There are a few. They may not have experienced the issues that districts our size and larger have experienced, but early on it was only like 250 districts and boards that actually went on this. I'm pretty sure it's in the 800s, if not higher now. Now, not all of them look like ours. Some of them, especially the smaller ones, are a little slower and only use the DOI certification for teacher certifications, like in your CTE areas. Trying to find somebody to teach welding, or somebody to teach automotive repair. If you've got some of these 3A and below school systems, it may be a little difficult to find a certified teacher. It's difficult for us. And so you have to rely on that work-based experience that does provide credit for them to be actually teaching inside of school. So it's a good question. Why would they not do it? There's not too many left that are not a DOI district. I didn't look at that data. I can probably get that for you. Can you look it up real quick? And maybe by the time we get through our conversation, we'll know how many are participating. There's a running list on the TEA website.
And in the meantime, I'm glad you touched on our Chapter 21 contract conversation. And I don't know the number and don't necessarily keep up with it, but I know that it is kind of on a rare occasion where, as a district, we've actually had to let somebody go the old-fashioned business way, because it's really, really hard in public ed to do that. So.
It is. If you're looking for a public statement on that, I'll say this. Just because y'all aren't getting folks that aren't working out for us at the dais, that's usually negotiated well before it gets up here. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes people just need to restart, and sometimes they make that decision on their own as they kind of see where the cards are. Very rarely does it get up here, because I do think that our principals and our HR department are doing an effective job of negotiating that exit with dignity and respect, because we do value everybody that works for our school system. And I certainly respect anyone that has chosen education as a profession. Now, if they've done something egregious, no way in heck are we going to let that go untouched and unnoticed. But as far as purely performance, we do have staff that exit the school system because we're not getting it done. So 892 of about 1,000 plus have participated in DOI. So that's almost 90% of school systems district-wide are DOI school systems.
Well, good deal. I know I'm thankful for it. So, Okay.
Next step on this will be that there'll actually be an agenda item here, I believe, at the March regular meeting. So at the regular meeting, we will have met all of our timeline as far as the process goes and a lot of the actions as well. So this will actually come in front of you. If you have any questions past today, please feel free to call me, and I can either get you in touch with the right staff or answer those questions for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And while you make your way back up to the dais, I will open it up for an opportunity for public comment on this District of Innovation Plan renewal. Doesn't look like anybody's out there to talk. Okay. Well, we will move along to some action items concerning Districts 1, 3, and 6 and our elections. So the first one is to consider an approval of certification of unopposed candidates for single-member districts 1, 3, and 6. Do I have a motion on that item?
I enthusiastically make the motion that we approve that item.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is it an enthusiastic second? I have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion enthusiastically carries.
There you go.
Okay, we have the consider approval for the order declaring the cancellation of trustee election of unopposed candidates for single-member districts 1, 3, and 6. Do I have a motion on that item?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion carries. And that is the meat of our work today. We will now go into executive session. We're reconvening from executive session with action to follow. I do have an item that is to consider the approval of the superintendent's contract. Do I have a motion on that item?
Motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, and the contract is approved. It is time now for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.